So the LC has been around for a few years now, but this is the first year of the LC Convertible. The LC takes place of the SC in Lexus's lineup and is considered a grand touring car. It actually has a lot in common with the full-size LS sedan, and its base price for the convertible is $101,000. So with that, what do we think about the Lexus LC Convertible? Let's get into it. So pretty cool, right? Before we jump more into the exterior design here, let's first talk about the models and trims offered here. So you do have the base LC 500, which is a coupe. Then you have the LC 500 hybrid, which is also a coupe. And then we jump into this, the LC 500 convertible. Now the LC 500 coupe and the convertible are also offered in an inspiration series, which adds a bit on the exterior in colors and the interior, but we're really not going to talk about that right now. We're going to be focusing on this one, the LC 500 convertible. So before we jump in and take a look at the interior and the tech and take it for a drive, let's take a moment to appreciate the exterior design here. All right, and to start off talking about the exterior design, let's talk about that color. This is liquid platinum paint, and it looks okay, but it's definitely not my favorite color. I definitely prefer this thing, especially the convertible with that soft top. I definitely prefer this thing in the obsidian black. I think it looks killer. With all the extra design elements in here, that black really makes this thing look a lot more aggressive and mean. This, not as much. Although the lighter colors do help the extra lines and creases in the car stand out, I think I would prefer that obsidian black. Moving to the front of the car, we do have premium triple beam LED headlamps. We have that big Lexus grille, pretty much standard that you would find on performance Lexus vehicles, with a big Lexus badge right there in the front. There is a bunch of details up here in the headlights and the front bumper. Lots of extra coloring materials with the daytime running light details. It's almost a bit busy. Not sure I understand where they were going with on this design language, but it doesn't look bad. Moving around the side of the car, you can see those side mirrors, and they are power folding on lock. They have the integrated turn signal. They're also 3 different colors. It's got black on the top, body color on the bottom, and a chrome strip in between. You might also see those door handles that pop out. So as you come up to the car, you don't really have to touch the remote. You just push in right here where this little dimple is. It'll unlock the car, push out the door handle, and then you just pull and you close, and you can lock it with the remote or push in and lock it up. Don't think that's necessarily the most elegant way to do it, and it took me a while to figure out that you could actually push it in to lock it, but it does give you a visual indicator that it's locked by the door handles being flush, by the side mirrors folding, and there's a little green LED lock symbol right there on the door that will indicate that it is locked. Other than the door handles there, the side is pretty smooth. You do have a small vent that goes into the rear wheel well, and that definitely is a functional vent. Moving on to the wheels, it comes standard with 20-inch wheels. These are actually 21-inch wheels, and it shows. They look really huge on this coupe. Behind those wheels in the front, we have 6-piston calipers with 2-piece brake rotors, and in the rear is a 4-piston monoblock aluminum caliper with 14.1-inch 2-piece ventilated discs. You're obviously not getting Brembos, but this thing doesn't have any problems stopping at all. Continuing along the side, you can see that the trunk area of this extends out pretty far. We'll talk about dimensions here in just a second, but we do have a little duck wing of a spoiler there. Optional is a power lifting spoiler that will lift at a certain speed to help with that downforce. This one doesn't have that. And obviously it is a convertible, so that top will come down and fold and not take up any trunk space, which is good because that trunk only has 3.4 cubic feet of cargo space, which is pretty small. Looking at the rear of the vehicle here, you can see those LED tail lamps, and I really like the design here. They're pretty much like mirrors back there, which is super unique. I've never seen in another car. And you've got that Lexus design with those sharp turn signals coming down the rear fascia. We also have active sport exhaust here in the rear, dual exhaust, which will let you hear when we start it up here in a bit. And of course, you've got the LC 500 badge with the Lexus badge in the middle of the trunk. All right, moving back to the side, let's talk about dimensions really quickly. And you might be saying to me, Adam, this looks like a super long vehicle for being a coupe. Is that just a video or is that in real life? That is in real life. It is a pretty long vehicle. So let's talk about the full dimensions of this thing, and I'll compare it with another vehicle. So the total length of the LC is 187.4 inches. That compared to Lexus's ES full-size sedan is 195.9 inches. So it's a few inches shorter than the ES. But the wheelbase is 113 inches here. That's the exact same wheelbase for the ES sedan, which is pretty incredible when you get inside and feel that this has nowhere near the room inside that the ES has. The total width of this one is 75.6 inches. That's actually wider than the ES sedan, no surprise there. And it's 53.2 inches tall, which is shorter than the ES sedan. Again, no surprise there. So it is a wide, short, but very long coupe. And it is rated at a 2+2 on the inside, but the rear seats in here are ridiculous. We'll show you that when we jump in just a second. But first, let's check out what's under the hood. All right, and like I said, this does share a lot with the LS sedan, including its engine. It is a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 engine. In this car, that pushes 471 horsepower, 398 foot-pounds of torque, has a 7,300 RPM redline, and is matched up to a 10-speed direct shift transmission. Obviously, we're going to jump in and take it for a drive and feel how that power feels, but you can definitely see by opening up this hood where this long nose comes from. This engine is basically center mounted here under the hood. You can see where these struts are for the tires, and this is basically right in the middle of this engine. So it's not pushed super far back to be more mid-mounted, and it's not pushed super far forward to be nose heavy. Like I said, it's pretty center mounted, which gives you a little bit more room on the interior, but does mess with the weight distribution a bit compared to some of its competition. With that, let's close up the hood, jump inside, and start taking a look. All right, guys, so let's talk about this interior. It's a really nice interior, lots of little details, lots of cool little features, but we are in the black and red interior. These seats, again, lots of detail in them. You've got stitching patterns, you got perforated leather. Again, it's black on the backs and red in the front. The doors are much the same, lots of nice little patterns, black and red. You've got some white stitching on the dash, leather perforated steering wheel. Obviously, the convertible top, we'll put it down here in a bit. Let's talk really quickly about the rear seats. Now, again, I already said, but the rear seats are basically a joke in this, much like a lot of 2+2 coupes in this segment. You barely have enough room for my hand to fit in between the seat cushion of the rear seat and the back of this seat, and it is even pushed up further than my seat is. Now, I did get 2 kids in here, both 10-year-old kids, my son and his friend, and he sat in the back with the seat pushed up, and he said it was comfortable for what it was, but obviously this seat was pushed up, so there's less room up front, and it was still pretty cramped in the back. This little shade here is great for having the top down. You can kind of fold back and forth. It comes off. There's little locking things on the sides here, but it doesn't fit in the trunk. So if you take it off and you want to use your rear seats, you need to remember to leave it at home or something, or just don't have it at all, because this does not fit in the trunk, unless there's a way to break it down that I couldn't figure out. But with that, let me pick you up a bit and show you better around the interior here, and then we'll take it for a drive. All right, guys, and like I said, there is a lot of detail in the interior here of this LC 500 convertible. Our infotainment system is a 10.3-inch color LCD multimedia display with Lexus Inform, and it's about standard for what Lexus puts in most of their vehicles. Nothing too special. I don't think it's the best system out there. I don't think it's the worst system out there. You do have built-in navigation. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and of course Bluetooth audio. You of course have the obligatory analog clock. We have a 13 speaker 915 watt reference surround sound audio system from Mark Levinson, which sounds pretty good. I would play you something, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. Opening up the glove box is done with the push of a button here. And as a quick note, when I got this car, the trunk would not open. I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't open. The button in the interior, the button on the remote, nor the button on the trunk would open the trunk. There is actually a button in the glove box that locks the trunk from being opened. Not exactly sure what the key feature is of that, but I did have to do some Googling and find on a forum that that was a thing. And of course it was pushed, so I couldn't get into the trunk. Pretty sure they said it was a valet thing so that you could have it locked. Over on the side here is all your AC and heat controls. You do have a CD player in here. This is your front cup holder. It is a push button start. You do have an electronic gear shifter here, and it's over and up for reverse, which gives you a reverse camera with guidelines. Over and back for drive, just over to keep it neutral. And if you pull it back while it's in drive, it'll put you into manual mode. Push button for the park. And then you do have a brake hold button. Over here is all your audio and infotainment controls. So you do have the touchpad from Lexus, as well as a little volume rocker here, quick access to radio and media, tune, and seek track. All pretty standard, not the greatest interface, but it works. Coming back a little bit further, you have this little hump here, which you can pop open like you're in a James Bond film or something. And this is where you lower the roof, as well as being able to roll down or roll up the windows altogether. The ones on the doors will only do your side windows and not the rear windows. But this will actually roll up your side windows and rear windows, because when you put the roof back up, it doesn't automatically roll the windows up. You have to do that yourself. Probably one of the coolest and most interesting things about this interior is this little flap here. And it's not particularly nice material-wise. It's just plastic. But it's kind of fun to play with. Moving further back is your console. You have a little button to push, and it can come halfway back, and that's your cup holder back here. And then there's a button over here that can flip it up, and that is your console. You have USB type A ports, 2 of them, an auxiliary port and accessory charging port. Moving along to the steering wheel, it is a leather wrap steering wheel with perforated leather. We have magnesium paddle shifters, which are really nice and feel nice in the hands. You have a lot of controls here on the steering wheel itself for your cruise control and radar settings here, and some of your audio controls and other controls over here. We do have the performance inspired instrumentation, including a G meter, and this does do the cool trick of sliding it over and giving you more information, or sliding it back over and having that tack front and center. And you can see a few different things by scrolling through the menu here, again including that G-force, but I pretty much like keeping it right here. And you can see from the buttons down here, we have the trunk button. We also do have a head-up display, and it is a pretty nice and sharp multi-color head-up display. Gives you the info that you need. Not much else to say about that. But with that, I think it is time to put it into gear and take it for a drive. So the startup exhaust sounds pretty good. Driving it sounds pretty good. It is an active exhaust, so you can, as you change the drive modes in here, it will change the exhaust note a bit. So we're on normal right now. We can change it into Sport S and Sport S Plus. Obviously, along with changing some of the exhaust and things like that, you also get a change in the display. You can also twist backwards on that and put it into comfort mode, which we'll do right now. Now, during most of the week, I've been driving it in normal mode. Sometimes I'll shift it into sport, but for the most part, normal mode. You do also have some traction control settings on your left-hand side, which is basically putting it into a snow mode, or you can turn the traction control off. Don't really recommend that unless you're really good at driving and you're putting it on a track or something, because this naturally aspirated V8 does have some good power to it and can push those rear wheels a lot. So let's put it back into just Sport Plus. Might as well. This little backcountry road has some sweeping turns in it, nothing too drastic, but we'll see how it handles a little bit of turning, a little bit of braking. So coming up to our first turn here, we'll give it a little bit of a brake. Nice feel on the brakes. Turn in, give it a little bit of power out. Brake into the next turn, nice brakes, nice turn and feel, easy power out. It is a good driving, a good feeling car for sure. And all of this with the top up, losing some of that dynamicness of having that top down and the wind blowing in your hair and the extra exhaust sounds. Put it back into normal here for a second and quiet down a little bit. Responsiveness is still there from the steering, from the accelerator pedal. Maybe a little bit more of a delay. Turn-in is still good. Power out, still pretty good. Like I said, you have these magnesium paddle shifters. You can put it into manual mode and manually shift, but not really needed. That 10-speed transmission shifts pretty quickly. Now, we did just drive and review the new IS from Lexus, and there are a few things new in there that aren't in here. They give it a little bit more of a refined feel, which sucks when you're buying a $100,000 car versus a $40,000, $50,000 car, but nothing that's a complete deal breaker. And even though we have that big V8 under the hood, and this is a big vehicle, you're still getting 15 miles per gallon city, about 25 miles per gallon highway. We've been averaging over 18 miles per gallon, which is pretty good for a sport coupe like this with a big V8 under the hood. But of course, that's with a lot more city driving, a lot more just idling as we're taking pictures and video. So you can take that exact average with a grain of salt. We'll get up on the highway here and see how it is merging onto a highway. Of course, we got a slow truck in front of us, so we're not going to do too much. Yeah, the power is no problem in this vehicle. That V8, especially with that naturally aspirated and not having any turbo lag, just really pushes. And once you're up on the highway, you can engage some of Lexus safety features like the radar guided cruise control, and you got the lane keeping assist. So you can just hit cruise on, set your cruise control, have it radar to the person in front of you, turn on your lane keeping assist. It'll get the lanes and it will basically try to keep you in between. Now, I don't think this is the best lane keeping assist system out there. It does decently. It will alert you as you're getting too far out, but it doesn't really keep you in the lanes as well as some other ones. So it's definitely not anywhere near a hands-off driving experience. But again, you're not going to buy this car for a hands-off driving experience anyways. Hopefully you're buying this car because you want to drive it. But if you are doing some grand touring type driving, say driving from Dallas to Austin, going down the highway the entire time, it's going to give you a little bit more peace of mind than which is always nice. And all in all, the seating position is comfortable. Steering wheel is in a good position. I fit in it really well, even though I'm 6'1" and kind of a bigger guy. Have plenty of headroom. I can get low enough where I'm comfortable. I can get close enough to the steering wheel, but far enough back where my feet aren't cramped. The head-up display is nice and sharp and looks good. The driver info screen gives you all the info that you need, nice and responsive. And once you get the infotainment system set up the way that you like it and you're comfortable with using the trackpad and stuff, it's fine. All in all, I'd say it is a pretty solid car to drive, to sit in for a long time. And before we take the top down and give us some open air driving, let's quickly do a 0 to 60, an acceleration test in this thing, and see how that feels. And then, like I said, we'll take the top down, give it a little bit more driving. Then we'll talk about some of the competition out there and start wrapping the video up. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's push this car. Alright, so the convertible here is rated 0 to 60 at 4.6 seconds. If you get the coupe, it's 4.4 seconds. So you are sacrificing a bit for the convertible, but we've got it up. We're gonna put it here in Sport Plus, and we'll go ahead and leave it in auto shift mode. And go. It's pretty quick. I probably flubbed that. Not the best 0 to 60 runner out there. I'll freely admit that. But it is a quick car. Let's try it a little bit again. 1, 2, 3, go. A little bit of wheel spin. Off to the races. 60. Yeah, that's fun. All right, guys, and with that, let's put the top down, do a little bit of convertible driving finally. Now, you can put the top down while driving, which is good. got that sunshade. It's a nice driving experience. We're still in Sport Plus. Probably a little bit harder to hear me now. But while having the top down makes it slower 0 to 60, makes it a lot more fun to drive. So there's certain cars that I would definitely say don't get the convertible version of them. If you want the fastest, the best handling, get the coupe. But there's other cars, which I would put this in that category, where I would say it's not really meant to be a super fast car, super sporty car, a track machine. And in that case, I would definitely get the convertible, because you can have the top up and you're just fine. Might not look as good as the coupe, but when you put that top down and you're driving on a nice summer day, fall day in Texas, it's a blast. All right, guys, with that, let's put the top back up, go find a place to park. We'll talk about the different competition that we have with this thing. I'll give you some of my final thoughts on the car, and we'll wrap the video up there. All right, guys, so we have taken a look at the exterior, looked around the interior and the tech. We have taken it for a drive, and it's a pretty incredible machine. But let's talk a little bit about some of the competition out there. Starting out with the Jaguar F-Type, which is a much cheaper vehicle than this one, but is a really fun convertible. You can also compare it to the Porsche 911, which comes much closer in price to this. Obviously, interior size is much closer to this, but as a whole other beast of a vehicle. I think two of the best competitors to this are the BMW 8 Series and the Mercedes-Benz SL class. I've driven the 8 Series BMW convertible. It's an amazing machine. They're both around the same price as this, although the base price is a bit cheaper than this thing on both of those cars. But obviously it doesn't take a lot in a BMW or a Mercedes to push that price up much higher, where the Lexus gives you pretty much everything standard except for a few things here and there. And then of course you can also compare this to the Maserati Gran Turismo. And there's probably one or two that I'm missing in this category. Surprisingly, a lot of offerings in this category. So would you buy this over everything else there? And we didn't even throw in the new Corvette, which I do think deserves a mention, as it is cheaper and a really great vehicle. Let me jump out. I'll give you some of my final thoughts and we'll wrap the video up there. All right, guys, so after a full week of driving the LC 500 convertible, it's a good car. Do I think it's a great car compared to its competition? Not really, but I do think it's good. The first things my kids said about this car was, it's an old man car. I'll agree with them there. Much like a lot of expensive sport coupes, usually older men are the only ones that can afford them, unless you're just some music star or athlete or whatnot. But then are you buying the Lexus LC 500, or are you buying something a little bit more flashy? Now, something I originally wasn't going to bring up, but I decided to throw into this review. If you guys have been following along with TexasGarage for a long time, first off, you'll know we're a part of the Texas Automotive Writers Association. That association has a couple of annual events, including what we call the Texas Auto Roundup, where we drive a bunch of cars, SUVs, minivans, and we name our best car of Texas, SUV of Texas, minivan of Texas, things like that. And back in 2018, when the LC 500 Coupe first came out, we named the LC 500 Coupe as the car of Texas. That was a decision that I took some offense to, mainly on the price of the thing, but also because out of all the vehicles out there, I don't think this is best suited for people that live and drive in Texas. All of that being said, I don't think it's the best choice in its class, but it is still a really good car. It's fun to drive. You get a lot of horsepower under the hood. You get that naturally aspirated V8, which feels good, sounds good, as you guys have seen. I don't mind the convertible at all. Actually, if I was buying this car, I probably would opt for the convertible, which isn't my normal MO. I would normally go for a hard top over a convertible just because they're more sporty, but I feel like this isn't trying to be as sporty. I like that Grand Touring tag on it. It is a good Grand Touring car, which could be good for Texas. But again, I think there are better options out there. If you've got the money, you really like the design, you've gotten in it, you've driven it, you like it. I don't have any problems with somebody spending $100,000 on this car if they have the money to spend on it. Again, I don't want to seem like I'm trashing on the car. It is a good car. I just think there's better options out there. With that, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button. Leave us a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the LC 500 convertible. Let me know what you think about that $100,000 price tag. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel because we do a weekly review here. Also go check out TXGARAGE.com for more written reviews as well as event and news coverage. And with that, guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.